Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm the Evelyn Shorty, and yes, we're getting a 2-for-1 today simply because there's a lot of comics out this week and I didn't have time to review them all. So we're going to look at A Swallow of Shades, which is one of Splatter Western one-shot, which is a series of 4 one-shots. I'm not entirely sure if they've got the same creators, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I have been interested in this one because the creator, J.M. Brandt, shared something about it on, I think, Instagram a while ago, and it instantly captivated me. Horror and Western are my two favourite genres at the moment. It's something where if they work well together, they can work spectacularly well. Recently, I'm going to say Rush has been one of the absolute highlights. It got the language of the time down correctly. The setting was fantastic. The horror effectively amplified the real-world horrors of the Wild West with the supernatural twist, just turn them up to 11. Hugely effective, very hard to top. I've read a few other horror westerns since then and before then, and it's honestly been thin picking in terms of ones I've absolutely loved. Two Moons was another one which did a really, really good job. Maybe ran on a bit too long. So I'm always looking for it, but weirdly my expectations are never like crazy high. They're always a bit like, this would be nice to see what they do with it. I'm always curious how they're going to approach it. And this one, it does it in a kind of traditional style, at least traditional for the horror storytelling, which is the multi-part morality play with a key narrator. Now in this situation, one thing I liked about the narrator was they were not just a crusty old ghoul a la Crypt Keeper or anything like that. It's just a guy in the Wild West, a cowboy, if you will. And he seems to almost be part of the world of the story he's telling. He's able to wander in and out of it, talking to us, the reader, as if we are he's breaking the fourth wall to talk to us, but also to be part of the world. He buys food and goes and sees shows. It reminds me very much of Charles Dickens in The Muppets Christmas Carol, and since that's one of my all-time favourite movies, I find it hard to criticise this. I'm not entirely sure if that's what J.M. Brandt was going for, but who knows, maybe he's a big fan of Muppets too. But I do like the setting. I like the fact that the horror comes through from a certain capitalist top-down kind of thing. There are people in control screwing people over. In this particular case, it's the not creep show, sideshow thing, where you've got people who are freaks. And yes, I'm doing that because I don't particularly want to use that word and associate it with them, but it's appropriate to the discussion. And the guy who owns the I'm going to say freak show, sideshow. So let's go with sideshow. It sounds better, so let's go sideshow. The guy who owns a sideshow basically is an absolute huckster who's just trying to make as much money as you can off these people because he basically sees they have nowhere else to go. And in this kind of story, we often see it that the guy in charge is on making the money. The people below kind of learn to rationalise that what they're doing is simply the best way they can survive. They find a sense of community amongst themselves, and there's nice interplay relationships between them. It feels like that's what's going on here. Nothing too far out of the ordinary so far, but then you get what you wish for, or be careful what you wish for, seems to be the morality play of the day, as the huckster gets something which ends up screwing people over, basically brutally murdering people, until eventually it comes for him, and he gets his comeuppance and the story ends. On the way to this, it is good. It doesn't quite get to the rush levels of, oh my god, this is absolutely amazing, for a couple of reasons. Number one, when it comes to the artwork, and I do like the artwork, it is absolutely solid. It managed to be visceral and brutal, even though it is all just pure black and white. I want to say black and white, I mean, not even grey. It is like cross-hatching and pointillism just to denote shading, but it is just black on white. Now, I usually love this style of artwork. I think it looks fantastic. It is very, very bold. But in this particular case, it's let down on two occasions. Number one, when we have big, over-the-top action sequences, and there's a few in here, they slow down a little bit because there is an overwhelming amount of detail, and the shading in the way it is done isn't 100% as clear as I think it could be if it would have allowed to have greys in there. It's not the end of the world. It certainly didn't stop me enjoying it, in the same way that the other thing that let me down a little bit is it's a Wild West story. Why not have black on sepia instead of white? I mean, you might as well commit to it. I think it looks fantastic. You could just do it on slightly different paper stock. Now, this could be down to just the way the company wanted to present it or costing. I don't really know, but it's a small thing. But it was like, oh, that's a shame. That could have been better. And the final note, the thing that only lets it down a little bit story-wise, because the characters are great. I like morality play. I like the fact that this is going to be a 4-part portmanteau. This is all the kind of stuff I really like about horror. But when we get to the end, when our antagonist gets his comeuppance in a fantastically brutal and bloody way, in the same way that various other people have met their end in this comic book, the story then just kind of ends. There's an extra page at the end, and it feels like it's supposed to wrap up what's happened, but I don't think there's enough of a sense of why the bad thing has stopped happening. There is a reason why it started happening, and it's never explained 100% in a way I find 100% convincing as to why it stopped. I can't tell you much more than that without spoiling, and I generally don't want to spoil it for you. I think if you like horror, if you like westerns, you should be checking this out. It is fun, it is brutal, it is unforgiving, and it plays into a lot of tropes and styles that I like for both horror and westerns. Solid comic book. I'm glad I've got it. That's it for me for now. I say I'm going to try and squeeze in a couple more extra reviews. There's at least 2 or 3 more things I want to read this week, so let's see if I've got time for it all, shall we? Until I see you all again, though, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!